Hey everybody. We'll do Road Home in a bit, but you know how lonely it is in here? I mean, Trixie has been filming the great episode, and, well, it's kind of lonely here. She usually manages to beat me up or do something, and, well, Lyra hasn't been fulfilling that role, and this feels so empty. I miss her, I do. You do? Trixie, you're here! Of course, Trixie just finished filming her stuff, and now she can continue doing her job and keep an eye on this place. Seriously, this place is a mess. Without Trixie, no wonder this place has fallen to bits. Trixie, I missed you too. Trixie, missed being here too. A lot. I missed my best friend. So did Trixie. Alright, let's do this. We'll say here as we here present The Road Home. The Road Home by Penstroke. Chapter 1. Empty Palace. Guys, I just thought about this, but since Cadence is 9 months pregnant in this story, I wonder how the crystalling takes place there. Because I can imagine that this story has the crystalling happening earlier, and has Nyx become little Flori's little godmother. That's the only little thing that can actually calm her down. Okay, show of hands. Who wants to see if Penstroke would write a collection of stories about Nyx being Flori's babysitter? I would write it. Trust me, it would be hilarious. The sharp snip of the Golden Sisters preluded a war of applause. Twilight stood under the arch of the gatehouse, smiling proudly as the marching band began to play a triumphant fanfare. It had taken a lot of work, but one of her big acts of princess was complete. Nightstone Castle had been renovated and reopened as a school, a university for higher learning. Princess Twilight's School of Higher Learning was now open. It was a place where every pony or any creature could come to broaden their horizons. There was a school of magic, of course, but with the size of the castle and the renovations, there was space for so much more. Our friends provided input, of course, and Twilight was happy to say it was as much their university as it was hers. Programs on agriculture, fashion design, zoology, veterinary science, culinary arts, history, and literature all stood alongside a strong athletic program. Maud Pie even taken Twilight's offer to be the head of school geology. Must have Pinkie Pie lied. Oh, look at this! Maud is so excited! Hooray. Twilight hadn't even tried, towards the end, to rename the school to something that reflected her and her friends, but they wouldn't hear a word to the contrary. It was like another rite of passage as princess to have a school of your own, to be like Princess Celestia, with her long-standing school of magic. Or like Princess Luna, who had recently established her own school. Oh my God! No! Please tell me that Luna's school is very, very far away from any valleys that looks like a moon, and please tell me that she's actually hired guards who won't shoot on sight! Please tell me that, because heaven knows we don't want anything bad happening! Oh yeah, tell me about it. Nyx, this is a childhood version of you! Her own school for the creative arts. And as a Fallout fan, I'm shuddering. The achievement of finally being able to cut the ribbon and open the school had Twilight wearing a constant smile. The weather teams had ensured it was the perfect day for the event. Fall was just beginning. The trees were changing. There was a Christmas in the air. Breathing in was like taking in a bite from a fresh apple. It was just so refreshing and energizing. Twilight couldn't think of any way the day could be more perfect. The school looks beautiful, Twilight. Yet the day seemed intent to prove Twilight wrong. With her smile widening, she turned around to see Princess Celestia. The Solar Princess beamed with pride, and she and Twilight quickly shared a warm embrace. I thought you couldn't make it! Twilight said as he pulled down from Princess Celestia. You can thank Luna and Cadence for ensuring I had time to come down here. Celestia answered as the pair began to move with the crowd that was already flowing into the castle's courtyard. You really have done a great job taking this castle away from its origins, making it someplace wonderful. That means so much coming from you, Twilight said, struggling to contain her own joy. A princess should not hop for joy, but with each passing moment, Twilight found the urge to bounce around like Pinkie Pie grew more irresistible. Twilight used to see Princess Luna when she was 5. Yippee! You should let me give you a tour. Really, some of the facilities we put together are amazing. Rainbow Dash made sure the athletic fields behind the castle are some of the best in the kingdom. She really wants Ponyville to come home with more gold medals at the next Equestria Games. And you should see the new library. We modeled it after the main library of the Crystal Empire. Though Rarity, of course, gave it a unique flair of its own. She couldn't stand the idea of us being outright copycats. I remember Ponyville having a library. Wasn't it in a tree? The third, old rough voice came from behind Celestia and Twilight, causing them to look back at an old rust-red pony with a white mane. He was wrinkled and walked gingerly, as if any unevenness in his steps might cause his hip to pop out of place. It was familiar, though Twilight could not place where she had seen him before. Yes, Princess Celestia said as he took a step towards the older stallion. Tell me, what do you remember of the library?
Oh, a few things,
the old pony said with a dry chuckle.
It had beautiful little balconies, and that one, she used to live there. Oh, I remember one other thing. I remember.
The old stallion broke into a cough, one that nearly knocked him off his hooves. He teetered. It was only the quick actions of Princess Celestia that kept him from falling. She caught the stallion with a hoof, and offered a genuine thankful smile. Then he opened his mouth as if to yawn or sneeze. It would have been an instant expressive for such an old stallion, if not for one thing. The fact that Celestia's alicorn magic was flowing out of her mouth and into his. Princess Celestia! Twilight shouted, trying to rush to her mentor's aid, only to be blasted by a surge of magic. She hit the ground hard, bouncing once before coming to a stop. She gasped, trying to catch the air that had been knocked from her lungs. She winced at the throbbing pain at her side.
That's right. I remember turning that pathetic library into splinters.
Twilight struggled to pick herself off the ground. No! You can't be here! Not today! She looked up. Body shaking in fear, she looked upon the familiar visage of Tirek.
You give me far too little credit, princess,
Tirek said. He held Celestia by her neck, her body hanging limp and lifeless as he dragged her alongside him.
Do you think Severus left his post at faithfully on a whim? No. That was an opportunity for escape I orchestrated, and it was simple enough to do a second time. Though, I'll admit, the key you added was a minor annoyance.
Tossing Celestia to the side, Tirek reached out and grasped Twilight by the neck, lifting her off the ground.
Showing mercy has always been a weakness of ponies.
His grip tightened, Twilight struggling to breathe as he waved her hose in desperation.
But I assure you, I intend not to make your mistake.
Tirek opened his mouth, and Twilight felt the painfully familiar sensation of her magic being drained away, like flesh being stripped from the bone. The pain lasted through every moment of the process. It was shearing, mind-rending. It was something Twilight could never hope to forget. As the last of her magic was drained away, Twilight went limp in Tirek's grip. She looked down, unable to voice a word while his mouth twisted into a grin.
Just as delicious as I remember. Alicorn magic truly is the most delectable essence. But do not pass out on me yet, Princess Twilight.
Tirek spat the words, finding no humor in such a frail creature holding a title.
Yes, I put you a week as I show you just how well I learned my lesson. I will grind your fellow princesses into dust instead of imprisoning them. I will kill your friends instead of using them as leverage. A spear of magic formed between his horns as he sneered. Yes, I learned my lesson from you, Princess Twilight, and I shall show no mercy.
He unleashed his magic, causing fires and explosions to rip across Nightstone Castle. Rubble was sent flying. Screams of ponies trapped inside ripped at Twilight's mind. No! Stop! Twilight pleaded.
A little death will ensure the rest of this kingdom bows to its new king.
As Tirek said as the flames surrounded him in Twilight. The heat became increasingly unbearable. The wails of pain only grew worse. It was like a tornado of anguish that was swirling around Twilight, giving her no rest or reprieve. Twilight shut her eyes and brought down her ears, trying to drown it all out.
Besides, I've already took care of 2 possible revenge seekers before you had a chance to hide them away.
Twilight's heart skipped a beat, and she looked to Tirek. No.
Oh, yes,
Tirek answered, holding out his hand. In his palm lay 2 tiny things. One was a green scale. The other was a black feather. Twilight felt tears welling up in her eyes. She began to flail and fight against his grip, screaming at the top of her lungs. No, it wasn't true. It couldn't be true. She hadn't lost the library. She couldn't lose them. She couldn't lose it all. She couldn't let Tirek take it all away. Twilight! Twilight! Gah! Bolting awake, Twilight shivered and looked around frantically. Her forehead was dripping with sweat. Her hose were shaking. What? Where? Twilight, little Cully, your slave. Now would you please put down my bone? The truth of reality began to sink back into Twilight's mind. The school. It didn't even exist yet. She had only submitted a proposal to Princess Celestia, Princess Luna, and the mayor a month ago. It all just been a horrible, horrible dream. Nyx and Spike were safe. Tirek didn't even know about them. She had hidden them with Sakura during the attack, and sent them to her parents' home in Kirtland straight after that. They were safe. She was safe. Every pony and everything was safe. Except, perhaps, for Applejack's barn, which was levitating a good dozen feet off the ground. Okay, the people who've probably read my story, Sins of an Alcorn, know that it's a story with Nyx in the future. In case anybody's wondering, in that timeline, well, you'll find out Twilight wasn't nearly as successful as this fic. Sorry, I'll put it down, Twilight said, seizing control of her magic. She lowered herself to the barn and everything else back to the ground, assuring a gentle landing. Standing up from her bed of blankets and hay, Twilight moved to the main doors of the barn, where Applejack was climbing down from a ladder. I'm so sorry. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, Applejack said. Your scale was a scare. Granny Smith nearly spat out her teeth when she saw our barn starting to flow off. I'm so sorry. I was just having that dream again. Twilight turned, heading back into the barn. She had somewhat taken over the space. There were stacks of boxes everywhere. It was everything she had been able to clean up from the rubble of the library. Most of the boxes were just full of ash and sharp corners of books. Very few of the tomes from the library's upper floors survived the explosion. Still, she was sure she could use magic to piece the ashes back together. There had to be a spell for it. She just needed to do some research, a task immediately made harder without the very things he was trying to restore. I got it! Alchemy! You've been having that dream for almost a week now, Twilight. Maybe you should go talk to Princess Luna about it. Applejack says he folded the ladder and leaned it against the exterior of the barn. That's part of her royal duties, after all. That isn't how it works. If Princess Luna thought this was a dream I couldn't handle, she would probably have come and helped me already. Twilight sat down on the bed she made, which was a mattress of hay with a few blankets to separate her from the itchy straw. Applejack walked up to the edge of the bed. Are you saying Princess Luna is making you have these dreams? Twilight shook her head. No, at least, I don't think so. I think this is my own dream, but Princess Luna's just letting me have it. I just wish I knew what it meant. Me too. I hate to think what else you start levitating just goes on much longer. I'm sorry. If you like, I could go stay with Rarity. Applejack laid the hoof. Now, I didn't say you had to go to no place. When I said you could stay here as long as you need, I meant it. I just think I might not see near to tying a few things down after all. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Or I can try wearing a magic suppressor to bed. I got a lot of practice in the dungeons of Nightstone Castle. Twilight yawned and rubbed her right eye. What time is it? A few hours till sunrise. Twilight pulled herself out from the bed, groaning as she began to go to a workbench that she assembled from a few stacked boxes and wooden boards. Well, there's no reason to try to go back to sleep then. I could probably make some progress on the repair spell, if I'm lucky. Applejack walked to the far side of Twilight's workbench, brow furrowed. I thought you gave up on that yesterday. I thought you were finally going to start figuring out what you need to do to move into the new house. I did, but then I had an idea before I went to bed. Some of the time spells for Starsfield, the Bearded Ring, and Candlelight might be able to help. If there's one that could reverse time, I could just turn back the clock to the library, to a time before Tirek destroyed it. It and all the books would be just like new. But Twilight, the library, it's gone, I know. But I can put it back together. I just have a few more days before Nix and Spike come back to Ponyville. If I fix the library before that, then it'll be like it was never destroyed. Everything can go back to normal, and Nix won't even know what happened. Applejack sighed, shaking her head as he turned to leave. Well, alright, but you should try to get some more rest. Even if you don't go to sleep, lie down and just resting your eyes will probably do you a world of good. I'll lay down as soon as I try out this new variation on the repair spell. Twilight answered, casting her magic on a pile of ash at the center of the workbench. It began to twist and swirl, changing colors and forming back together into a book. But before it was halfway restored, the spell flickered and collapsed, causing the book to change back to ash. Twilight groaned, starting to pick up the little bits of ash in her magic. I must still have a piece of some other book in the pile. Applejack had to shake off the yawn as he walked up amongst the orchard rows. She had gone back to sleep after what happened with Twilight, but dealing with a floating bar had taken a good hour out of an otherwise restful night's sleep. Still, she had worked a full day on the farm with less sleep before. She just needed to try and make up for it later, either with a nap or by going to bed early. That, however, was a long ways off, and Applejack had a lot of work to do. Fall would be coming soon, and that meant that they were getting some of the last harvests off the orchard. It had been a good year. Her family enjoyed good sales during the summer, and had been able to squirrel away more than enough food to keep Ponyville fed during the winter. Even with the vampire fruit bat infestation, they had managed to come out a little ahead. Making a slight turn, Applejack approached a tree laden with fruit. The baskets had already been laid out by Big Macintosh. That was how work was getting to be split today. She'd do all the bucking while he set out the empty baskets and collected the ones she had filled. The first tree of the morning, and Applejack could already feel a peaceful joy she got out of tending her family farm, starting to settle over her mind. This was a nice, simple, straightforward day of harvest. No pressure to get it done, and quickly, and nothing out of the ordinary. It was a day with her family in the orchards. Turning, Applejack raised her hind hooves and gave her a firm buck to the tree. The leaves quaked and rustled. The apples gently popped off the branches and fell. It was all going perfectly well. The short-lived rainstorm of apples would end, as she picked up any that missed the baskets. Tenderhoof, of course, is drooling! This morning, however, the apples seemed to have a different plan. When they hit the ground, they bounced like a rubber ball. What? Squeaking with each hit. The fruit began to ricochet in every direction. They hit the trees, the buckets, and a few even bounced right off Applejack's head if she hadn't dove for cover. Hiding underneath an empty basket, Applejack watched the fruits bounce across the orchard. The volley of apples were starting to move away like an angry swarm, the ricochets taking them closer and closer to the barn. For a moment, Applejack feared what would happen when the owls raced to it. They got inside while Twilight was casting her magic. Who knew what would happen? Climbing out from underneath the protection of the basket, Applejack was ready to sprint to prevent whatever magical catastrophe was about to happen. Yet, she had to stop in her hollows before even taking a single step. The apples that reached the barn were bouncing off of it into the nearby fruit baskets, where they abruptly stopped. In the span of a few seconds, every apple that had been acting like a mad pinball now rested peacefully exactly where they needed to be. I do say, this farming thing is very relaxing. It's like a soothing massage for the soul. Applejack slapped her hoof against her face, dragging it down across her muzzle before she turned around. Discord was sprawled out in the branches of a nearby tree, a relaxed smile on his face. He used his claw to pick an apple from the branches. He inspected it slowly for a few seconds, turning it over in his claw. He then dropped it, like the ones before. The apple bounced. Applejack had to quickly juke to the right to avoid getting hit on the head as the fruit ricocheted toward the barn. Discord! What have I to say about messing with my apples? I'll have you know, I haven't done a thing to your precious produce. Discord picked and dropped another apple. This one bounced around Applejack, not forcing the mare to duck or dodge. The apples are perfectly fine. It's everything else I put a little magic into the ground, the trees. It's like one giant bounce house meant to help my dear friend. And how exactly is this helping? Why, I'm helping you harvest your apples. I'm saving you and your dear brother the numerous monotonous trips of hauling them back to your barn. Applejack sighed, ducking her head once more as another apple soared within inches of her skull. Well, I guess that means you're feeling better. Oh, yes, Discord said as he snapped his claw. He disappeared from the tree and reappeared right next to Applejack. He wore an orange button-down shirt, with Applejack's cueing mark on the back, and an infinity symbol. He had a matching brim hat and a sports glove in one paw. I'm happy to report that after having my magic so rudely torn out and then lovingly put back in, I'm feeling completely normal. Applejack picking an apple from a nearby tree. Discord stood with a clench in his jaw. He rolled his shoulders a little, then reared back and threw the apple. With the speed and force his arms swing, the apple would have sworn through the air like a comet. Instead, it corkscrewed and swerved through the air until finally bounced against a distant barn and landed in a basket with the other apples. I can tell, Applejack said. Now, did you want something, or you're just here to help? Ah, straight to the point as usual, Discord said, snapping his claw to remove his furry outfit. I am here for more than just the pleasure of your company. It would be rude of me to start without everyone else. I just went on ahead to figure out where you were. And who else is coming exactly? Discord slipped his paw backward, and as if he timed it perfectly, two ponies came into view a few orchards away. Applejack, there you are! Verity called, and seeing Fluttershy turning to start walking straight towards her friend. Granny Smith said you were in the East Orchards, but we were having such trouble finding you. Applejack pointed a hoof at Discord. So, y'all sent him here to come find me? Oh no, he volunteered, Fluttershy answered. Discord floated up behind Fluttershy and Rarity, smiling as he clutched his clawed paw to his chest. I was just trying to do the friendly thing. Of course. Applejack rolled her eyes, before looking to Rarity and Fluttershy. What are you two up to? We were actually hoping that we could convince you to take a little bit of a long brunch. Twilight's been closed up in your barn for a week now, and Fluttershy and I thought it would do her so good if we got all 6 or 7, Discord corrected. Holding up his claw, which now sported 7 talons. 6 of the claws were painted to resemble 6 particular mares, while the 7th looked like the betrayed conquest himself. Okay, I think we should make it a rule. Penstroke is no longer allowed to write Discord. He writes it too well. Rarity chuckled, though the tone of her voice made it clear, as he wasn't entirely following the 7 guests' presence. Yes, my apologies. We thought it would be good for Twilight if all 7 of us had a nice meal together. Well, you're more than welcome to go and try to pull Twilight out of the barn. Applejack walked towards another fruit-laden tree, turning around to buck as he spoke. I'm a bit too busy to go to town for lunch. These apples won't buck the tails. Applejack punctuated her words with a kick to the tree, a solid thunk that would have knocked every apple to the ground. Instead, the tree began to quiver, vibrating like a tuning fork. The vibration began to spread. Neighboring trees started to shake. Instinctively, Applejack looked to Discord as the source of the odd behavior. The Decronicus, however, was now wearing a suit of armor. Not a single inch of his body was exposed. Even his tail was covered in plate mail. It was clue enough for Applejack to realize what was about to happen. I done it! Applejack shouted, jumping at Rarity and Fluttershy. She tackled her friends to the ground just as the first apples began to fall from the vibrating trees. Within moments, the orchard was a hailstorm of bouncing apples, ricocheting off the trees, the ground, Discord's armor, and one another. Every apple in the orchard had become a concussing, inducing projectile. Even the baskets began to bounce, fleeing about the orchard with dangerous speed. The maelstrom of fruits lasted for a few seconds before the sound and the bouncing faded. Applejack slowly raised her head, constantly looking around to see if the coast was clear. Everything looked fine. She couldn't see any more of the bouncing fruit. Looking over the barn, Applejack could see bushels upon bushels of apples, stacked neatly in several dozen wooden baskets. Careful, Applejack. There's one left. Discord warning came too late, and Applejack winced as one final apple bounced against the back of her head before landing in Discord's armored claw. She turned to glare back at him, but he just shrugged and opened the visor of his armor. I tried to warn you. Still, looks like me your harvest is done a bit early, so why don't you come join us for brunch? Rubbing the small sore spot in the back of her head, Applejack grit her teeth at Discord. Y'all go get us an armor too! And mess up rarities made by stuffing it into a helmet. Now, what kind of friend would I be if I did that? Rarity picked herself up from the dirt, grinning a little as he dusted off her coat. Yes, well, though you may not agree with its methods, this court does save you and your brother a lot of work. First I nodded her head. Yes, why don't we just get Twilight, go get brunch, and put this little disagreement behind us? Alright, let's go take a force and laser to get Twilight out of that barn. Applejack said as he began walking towards the barn. So he's still trying to figure out a fancy repair spell so he can put her books in the library back together. Applejack stopped and looked back over her shoulder. William Land, Discord. Why don't you fix the library? It saved Twilight a whole mess of trouble, and actually put that chaotic magic of yours to good use. Twilight already thought about that days ago. Discord put his claw and paw behind his back and rode through them, each now wearing a sock puppet. One looked like him, the other Twilight. Discord, would you please fix my library? Discord said, a surprisingly accurate impression of Twilight's voice. I'm sorry, Princess, but I can't. Besides, don't you have a shiny new palace to live in? But I miss my old library, and all the fond memories I have there, like the time Cadence and I took care of you when you were sick. Discord chuckled, moving the lips of his own sock puppet, while his real mouth remained motionless. Yes, I do suppose any time with me is a fond memory, but I can't fix the library. Oh yes, I could snap something together that looks like your library, but I can't make what I don't know. What do you mean? Asked the Twilight sock puppet, speaking out for some small foals while they were watching the performance. I don't understand. Oh, it's really simple. I know very little about your old library. Yes, I know what it looked like, and what kept you in the drawer of your bedside table, but I don't know what books you had, or the contents of your kitchen. I had to make up so much, and I think we could both agree you wouldn't be happy with what my chaotic imagination could put together. I guess you're right, the sock puppet said, before it and Discord puppet disappeared. Then the real Discord smiled, making a few theatrical bows to his two mares. Thank you. You've been a wonderful audience. No, really, don't stop. Yes, it would be the same thing like trying to fix the merry-go bow. You could put in a new one. You could put something brand new there, but it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same place. It wouldn't be the same going merry. This is, of course, why they had to burn it, and we had the most tear-jerking scene for a ship in all of anime history. We're not applauding, Applejack said. Discord popped over beside Applejack, putting a claw on her shoulder. Yes, but you are giving me a standing ovation. After all, you're standing here, aren't you? Now, Discord, Fluttershy said. I'm sure Applejack is thankful you helped her with the harvest. But maybe you should stop trying to antagonize her. Oh, I'm sorry. Was I going too far? I thought I was just giving her a playful ribbing. Isn't this something she and Rainbow Dash do all the time? Why, yes. Here, let me return the favor. With no further warning, Applejack quickly turned, brought up her hooves, and bucked Discord aside, sending him tumbling into a neighboring tree. See? Wasn't that just a playful ribbon? She asked with a smile. Discord smirked as he pulled himself up from the ground and dusted himself off. Yes, I suppose it was. Still, I would like to assure you that I would help Twilight if I could, considering what she did for me during that whole Tirek business. I owe her that much at least. Unfortunately, I simply cannot put the library back into order, and I certainly don't do anything to make that new palace more livable. Now, the whole place and thing is saturated in feel-good harmony magic. Ugh, Discord said with a shiver, as if the thought of alone made him ill. I might be able to summon a few things here or there while inside, but nothing I conjured magically would last very long. Nope. Twilight will just have to move into her new palace the old-fashioned way. Well, she sure isn't going to be doing it anytime soon either, Applejack commented. She's fixated on putting the library back together.
Can you really blame her? Firefly asked. That library was her home for 3 years. I don't think any of us would be ready to move on quickly if our homes got destroyed. I, for one, wouldn't mind seeing the library repaired, Rarity said. The library has been part of Ponyfield's ever since I was little. Remember the old librarian? She used to have story time with the kids. I took Sweetie Belle there a few times.
Applejack nodded her head. I'll remember. Lady Mac and I used to take Appleblue to that story time every other week. I even remember seeing you and Sweetie Belle a few times. Still, repairing the library to what it used to be isn't as simple as raising a barn. Sure, Twilight might figure out how to do it magically, but who knows how long that could take. Even if she does figure it out, it may be too late. Discord commented frankly. He snapped his claw, making a box appear in his paw. It was a simple child's picture puzzle. 25 pieces made a picture of the Golden Oaks Library. A little nuance to almost any repair spell Twilight could use is the need for pieces. You need all the pieces. Discord opened the box, taking one of the puzzle pieces out and chuckling over his shoulder. The longer you wait, the more likely those places are going to get lost. Okay, right now submitting a phone call to A1E Elric, care of 1914. Sent. Late, line 1914. Because any layer in Ed's going to be without his alchemy powers. Or worse, stuck in our timeline while his friends are all over the way and I can't believe the ending of Conqueror Summer! Still angry? Yeah, I hate that ending.
Then, how difficult would it be to just build a new library just like the old one?
Rarity asked. Applejack shook. Not easy. It was carved into a tree after all. And you just can't build a tree. We have to rip out the old stem first, then plant a new tree. And then, even with magic, there's no telling how long it will take for that tree to grow large enough to be used for a new library.
Rarity nodded gently, with a small blush of embarrassment on her cheeks. I do suppose that makes sense. But I don't know if I could bear to tell Twilight to give up on the library, Fireside said.
Wait, several nights of times. Spike and Legs are coming back to Planter last soon. Spike already knows what happened to the library. But as far as I know, they haven't told Legs. If this keeps up, she might end up finding out the hard way that her home got blown to splinters. Now I'll have to stay in my barn. It's almost a shame Twilight didn't have some friends who could get the palace ready for her. Discord commented casually as he leaned against a nearby apple tree, scratching his back against the bark. Don't you agree, Rarity? Rarity looked at Discord a moment. Then her eyes wandered as a smile pulled at her lips. Applejack and Fluttershy glanced at one another, able to tell immediately what was about to happen. Applejack even began to count it out, tapping her hoof against the ground while mouthing out the words, 3, 2, 1. I just had the most brilliant idea! Rarity said, nearly jumping for joy. Really? I couldn't tell you. Applejack said, laughing to herself. Rarity ignored Applejack's sass, her smile only growing.
Discord is right. We should get the palace ready for Twilight. I have always wanted to try my hoof at interior design on a royal level, and how many times am I going to get the chance like this? The palace is one of a kind, but it's also a blank canvas on the interior. The only thing that it has are the thrones in the throne room. Everything else, the furniture, the color scheme, the theme, all of it is just waiting for some point with proper vision to mold it into something grand. Yes, Rarity said as the ideas took form in her mind. It would need to be practical, but vegan. It needs to be bold and inspiring to visiting guests, but with a home and comfort for private evenings. Of course, there must be a library, and both Nix and Spike could finally have their own rooms, and Twilight wouldn't have to keep that laboratory of hers in the basement anymore either.
And where exactly are you going to get the base for all this? Applejack asked. Virgin, that whole palace isn't going to be cheap.
Maybe we could ask other ponies for donations, Fireside suggested. If every pony pitched in a little, I'm sure we have no trouble. I'd be more than happy to donate some little birdhouses.
What about the things like plumbing we have to install? And what about all the ponies you need to haul in for this furniture? You're talking about a sizable workforce. One that would need to be organized and kept on track. Now, the only pony here that has experience organizing that many ponies is Twilight.
Oh, I can think of another,
Rarity said with a smile. So he walked over to Applejack and put a hoof on the mare's shoulder, only to take it off a moment later once he realized how dusty Applejack's cut was.
A strong, honest mare who was one of the team leaders during winter wrap-up. A mare who knows how to motivate ponies to do their very best work and can keep them honest so they don't cut any corners. A mare who now has a lot of free time on her hooves because of the help she got with her apple harvest?
Fluttershy added, stepping over to Applejack's right hoof side. Discord joined in as well. He disappeared one moment, to only reappear at a fraction of its normal size, lounging on the brim of Applejack's hat. A mare who honestly needs to get Twilight out of her barn so she can store all those apples out in the sun? All right, y'all can stop beating around the bush, Applejack said, stepping out from between her friends. It's a good idea, and I'll be happy to help. But let's not put the cart before the pony. There are a lot of things we need to get done. We need to ask around to see if ponies would be even willing to volunteer for something this big. And we need to change plans or blueprints of the castle. And those aren't going to be easy, considering that whole building grew out of a magic test.
Well then, we know where to start, don't we?
Maggie said.
Fluttershy and I can head back to town and start asking around to see how many ponies would be interested. At the same time, you and Discord could go and start taking measurements at the palace.
Oh yes, that sounds like a wonderful idea, Discord said as he hung down from the edge of Applejack's hat brim. It would be a wonderful chance for me and Applejack to bond closer as friends. What is that?
Come along, Fluttershy. We have a moment to spare.
Fluttershy took to her wings, gently hovering behind Rarity as the pair began to head off in the direction of town.
What about runs?
Rarity stopped in her tracks.
Oh, yes, well, that is the whole reason we came out here, isn't it? Very well. We have enough time to get runs, but then we shan't have another moment to spare.
Thinking a little, Fluttershy nodded as she and Rarity resumed their departure. Applejack was thus left standing in her orchard, Discord hanging from the brim of her hat like a wet noodle as he waved farewell to Fluttershy. Then he stepped his claw, appearing next to Applejack, a yellow construction helmet hanging from one of his horns. We'd best be on our way too, Applejack. I can snap us together something to eat along the way. Well, oh, I'm just so excited to finally be able to strengthen my friendship with you. I mean, you're no Fluttershy, but you and I do share a few things in common. Applejack rolled her eyes as she took a few steps. We're just like 2 peas in a pound. See what I mean? What other pony do I know that shares my love of sarcasm?
Next, Spike, lunch is ready.
Twilight Velvet set out the last piece of the meal, some market fresh carrots, before stepping back to admire her work. It had been so long since she had prepared regular lunches like this. It all ended so abruptly after Shining Armor was accepted as a guard, and Twilight went to attend Celestia School. Before her children were even really adults, they were out of the nest. Sure, some ponies would say she was lucky to have such a great son and gifted daughter. She would have been happy to make lunches for them just a little longer, though a year or two at most. Still, even if it was just a few days, Nix's and Spike's visit allowed her to step back into the old routine. Proper breakfasts and lunches for both of them. Then, a true family dinner every night. Some say she was spoiling the pair, but that was her right as a grandmother. A right she was embracing thoroughly.
Spike, Nix, where are you two? We're coming!
Velvet heard Nix call back before the sound of hose and claws reached her ears. A few seconds later, and the pair entered the kitchen, Spike holding a comic book open in his claws, while Nix read over his shoulder. Oh! Ow! Ow!
Silly moment! Ow! Oh! Pen stroke! Cut that out! You're killing the poor guy! Don't you see, Lyra? That's how you do it.
Oh, thanks. But instead of Spike's extensive collection that was stored in the attic. Of course, it was a comic that didn't come from the House of Enchanted Comics. You okay? Ready? Spike asked. Nix turned firmly, a bit of her mane bouncing against her horn. She wore none of her usual attire. It was necessary to expose her wings and slitted eyes in the comfort of her grandparents' home.
Yeah! Turn the page! You can turn the page after lunch,
Velvet said, using her magic to levitate the comic book out of Spike's claws. And maybe after you go do something else for a while. You've been reading comic books since you got them down from the attic yesterday. Sorry, we couldn't help it. I mean, Space Queen versus the Space Laces was awesome! Spike said as he climbed into a chair at the table, as Nex topped up in her own. It's been so long since I've gone through my collection like this. I forgot just how many great comic books I have. Like Power Ponies number 56, with Zap has two.
Ah, not listening! No, no, no!
Nyx sang to herself as he covered her ears. Whoops! Spike said with a chuckle. Forgot that's the next one we were going to read. Nyx lowered her hose from her ears.
It's okay. I just don't want you to ruin what happens next!
Well, I'm glad you two are having fun. See, Velvet says he began to serve once, just doling out healthy portions of each plate. But it's too beautiful outside to spend the whole day cooped up reading comic books. I insist you take a break, go outside and get some fresh air.
Can we finish the book we're already on?
Nyx asked. Velvet shook her head as she took her own seat at the table. Nope! You're going straight outside after lunch. Trust me, the comic book will be here when you get back.
Aww.
Hey, don't worry about it, Nyx. Spike said as he picked up a carrot from his plate. He puffed out a little fire, quickly roasting the vegetable before popping it into his mouth. After all, I heard the maniac has built a secret base in their backyard. She's got a new day-to-day weapon, and only 2 heroes can stop her. Spike swallowed before pointing to himself. Humdrum and... Nyx smiled, catching on to Spike's plan. So levitated a carrot up from her plate. She held it above her head.
In 30 seconds!
Really? You want to play Philly second? Nyx lowered the carrot and looked at Spike with her head tilted to one side.
What's wrong with Philly second?
Nothing, Spike said with a loose claw. I just thought you picked somebody else.
Well, I like Zap and Radiance too. Would they be better?
What about Matterhorn? I'm sure you like her.
Yes, he does the unicorn who shits magic. That's something Twilight can do.
Spike laughed as he prepared to fire roast another carrot. You have no idea.
Thanks for helping me clean up, Spike.
The dragon picked out the last dirty plate from the table and carried it over to the sink. Velvet was using her magic to wash and rinse the dishes before putting them down on his drying rack. Hey, don't worry about it. I needed to kill time while Nyx was setting up our superhero base in the backyard.
That was nice of you to share your comic books with her, by the way. I remember that once upon a time, you didn't like any pony in the house touching them.
Spike pulled a stool from the corner of the room, then hopped up, grabbing a drying towel off the counter, and began to dry the dishes. Well, I was already going through them, and you know Nyx. Once she's curious about something, there's no stopping her. He sighed a little. Still, I don't know how I'm going to replace some of my comics. My Power Ponies number 12, 15, and 28. My Fantastic Fillies number 16, 23, and Rare 56 misprint. All of them went up to smoke with the rest of the library.
I'm just happy books are about the only things that were lost, Velvet said, putting her around Spike's shoulder and giving him a little squeeze. I hate to imagine what would have happened to you, Nyx, or Twilight had been there when Tirek attacked. You know, you really need to tell Nyx what happened before you two get back to Ponyville. Spike nodded as he continued to dry dishes.
Yeah, I know, but how do I even start? Hey, Nyx, you know our library, the only home you've ever known besides your dark, creepy castle? Yeah, it got blown into a million pieces. Yep, and just about everything inside is gone. Wanna go back to reading comics? The sarcasm left Spike's voice. He held a glass expecting a smudge, before wiping away with a drying cough. Honestly, not telling Nyx has been kind of nice. I kind of get to forget about what happened when we're hanging out. But all that changes the moment I tell her. It'll be the only thing she'll be thinking about. That she'll be in the dumps, then I'll be in the dumps, and that'll just be the dumps.
I'll admit, I'm no expert in breaking bad news, Velvet says, who set the final glass in the drying rack and pulled the drain plug out of the sink. Night-Night and I never really had bad news we had to tell Twilight or Shiny when they were growing up. They didn't have any pets that died, and we didn't lose any close family members either. No friends from school got sick or injured. It's really a miracle that Nightlight and I never had a serious talk with them. But we will still need to tell Nyx what happened. Okay, let's make a deal, Spike said, before finishing drying the last glass and hopping down from his stool. We'll give Twilight a few more days. Trust me, the moment she's repaired the library, I'll be getting a letter with the good news. If we haven't heard anything from Twilight before we need to get on the train to Ponyville, then I promise I'll tell Nyx everything. It's a long train ride after all. Plenty of time to break bad news. I guess it's only fair to give Twilight a chance.
Yeah. After all, she did just defeat another ancient evil. Fixing the library should be a cinch for my little girl.
Spike, it's ready!
Nick shouted from the backyard. Coming! He said before looking at Velvet. Looks like I have a day to save.
Have fun. And try to stay out of my flower beds. I don't want my zinnias getting trampled. I still need to get my seeds for next year out of their pods.
Yeah, I got it! Spike said, waving his claws. He headed out of the kitchen and turned towards the door to the backyard.